Firstly, I would like to say that I am Sally Hurst. I am here, joining you here from Wallamadigal Country up in Sydney. First Nations people in Australia have known about fossils and fossil sites for thousands of years. They likely knew about a lot of them, and it's their care of country that has likely preserved a lot of them for us to be able to work on them today. Many of the fossils have actually made their way into Aboriginal dreaming stories, and some of the creatures that we consider as very ancient and long dead and extinct were animals that lived alongside Aboriginal people as well. So, a very different relationship that we are still learning all about today. Now, I'm Sally. I'm a researcher at Macquarie University, and I do both paleontology and archaeology. So I love these interactions between humans and fossils, especially. Often you will find me on campus working in the office, but otherwise you're quite likely to find me in a hole somewhere. It might be in the deserts of Mongolia or the Badlands of Canada, but within Australia, I've been very lucky to work on sites like the Inverloch Coast with the Dinosaur Dreaming Team, Australia's longest running dinosaur dig, as well as with the Australian Opal Centre up in Lightning Ridge. And just 2 weeks ago, I was with the Flinders University crew in Wellington Caves, so about 40 meters underground looking for megafauna fossils. It's been a pretty spectacular life and career doing this, and it's been my absolute pleasure to start to share some of this journey through the Found a Fossil book. So, go. I have been very lucky to work with CSIRO Publishing to create a new book called Found a Fossil: Digs, Discoveries, and Australia's Deep Past. Now, Found a Fossil, which was originally created as part of my master's project, where I asked over 1,000 Australians, what would you actually do if you found a fossil? And hardly any of them actually knew what the right answer was. From this, I created a website to try and make these guidelines on what to do a lot more accessible to the public, because a lot of time it's not scientists finding fossils, it's farmers and miners and bushwalkers. So I wanted to try and make this information as accessible as possible through the website. That's now led to this hopefully very fun book. But some of the highlights I think in this book are the artworks that are inside. So tonight we are joined by four of the artists who have contributed to the book. It's available for pre-order, but it's coming out in just 1 week. So if you haven't got yourself a copy, make sure you pick one up so you can see some of these artworks in person. But for now, let me introduce you to our wonderful artists. Starting with Nellie. Nellie, I think I started following her when she did drawings of conferences and people's talks. It was amazing. We also have M. Herbert from the University of New England. I'm going to let these people introduce themselves because they're going to do it way better than I can. We also have Ruri Duncan, who's down in Victoria, and the incredible Ali Choi as well. So now if you want to start, give yourself a bit of an introduction and then we will jump into some of your artworks.
Oh yeah, thanks, Sally. Hi everyone. I'm Nellie, like Sally said. I am a paleo artist and also a paleontologist. Currently based in Perth, but I'm from Brisbane originally. So I sort of got into paleo art via paleontology. Actually, I was studying at uni, and I've always done art as kind of just a fun side hobby. But it was always really helpful in my lecture notes to kind of illustrate concepts that I was learning about, or diagrams of, anatomical, bones and things. Like that visual kind of like visualizing things is so important in paleontology, like being able to identify bones and then also to extrapolate from a small fossil what something might have looked like. Like you kind of need to be a sort of visual person or a visual thinker at least. So I was sort of just doing that to complement what I was learning, and people that I worked with in the lab picked up that I had that skill. And so I ended up getting commissions to do paleo art, and I've just kind of muddled my way along and ended up here doing art still for fun, but also sometimes for work, which is a really nice combo. Yeah, I think that's about it. If I want to pass on to the next person.
Great, thank you. Em, do you want to go next?
Yes, sorry. Hi everyone, my name's Emil. I am currently living in Armidale. I am a just started my PhD in paleontology at the University of New England. So I'm researching fossil sharks from the Cretaceous, but I guess my paleoartist journey is more, I guess, more a hobby for me. It's definitely something I'm very passionate about, and it's something I definitely do for fun and to relax. But yeah, paleo art's been something I've done for a couple of years, and I think I agree with Nelly that we're very visual and imaginative people. So it's a great part of paleontology is the art that comes out of it. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Ruri, you're up.
Okie dokie. Hello, I'm Rory. I am in Narm or Melbourne, and I am originally from Port Glasgow in Scotland. Uh, I had my first interaction with paleontology is through the artistic sort of side of it. I have binders at home which are stacks deep, full of very dinosaurs of varying attention to detail, basically. And it is one of the things that makes paleontology so excellent is that the artistic representation of the animals that we study is a part of that science as well because it is so scientifically informed by it. However, I myself uh, have always just kind of drawn, and at a certain point, certain people started asking me to draw things for them. I think initially probably would have been Steve Porpat just before I started my honors year, asking me to draw the a dinosaur for one of the publications, which I was very politely asked to contribute to. But yeah, drawing's amazing. It's the best part of paleo. The writing's way less fun, which I say because I am a month away from submitting my PhD, and I'm doing great.
We hope you're well.
Yeah.
Okay. Ali, do you want to jump in and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Ali Choi. I'm a tattoo artist actually, based in Melbourne, but originally from South Korea. So I work as a tattoo artist, mainly focusing on fossil and dinosaur-inspired designs. I didn't formally study paleontology, but I've always been really interested in it. So a lot of my work comes from self-study and research. Right now, I work mainly as a tattoo artist, but I've always wanted to create work related to paleontology. So I was really grateful to have the opportunity to collaborate with Sally, who was actually one of my clients, and be part of this book as a cover and illustration artist. So for my process, I mainly draw with iPad for my tattoo designs and illustrations. And honestly, I started this because I just really love dinosaurs. And I'm really happy to be part of this project. And it's so nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Ali. Yes, I might have to step up my game for my other artists, but I have three of Ali's works tattooed on my body. Part of it was, I think, it was kind of in the midst. I think I got you to do, you'll see later, but one kind of diagram for the book, and then I got the cover or kind of mock-up cover from CSIRO, and I just wasn't feeling it, just wasn't it. So I remember messaging Ali one night going, "Hey, would you be interested in doing some designs for me? And whether that's just giving some digital assets of stuff you've already done, or do you just want to design the whole cover for me?" And very amazingly, she said yes to the whole cover. And this is partly what you can see behind me. You'll see more photos of it later, but it's just exceptional. So these artists are just, they really do bring so many of these fossils to life. So I'm very grateful for all of their contributions in this book. Now we're going to have a bit of a section. Let me see. Done that. Going through some of the artworks that these artists have contributed to the book, as well as some of their favorite artworks, maybe their least favorite artworks. I don't know what they've put in here. But now, if you want to start and give us a bit of introduction to what you've created.
Yeah, so these are the artworks that I produced for Sally's beautiful Founder Fossil book. So Sally reached out to me on Instagram and said, would you be keen to provide some illustrations for this? And I basically never say no to a commission, but especially if it's a paleo art commission, it's not often you can get paid to do stuff like this, and to be part of a project that is helping bring paleontology to a new generation and providing illustrations of Australian species as well. There's not a huge amount out there compared to, mammoths and Tyrannosaurus rexes and the big famous American species. You can just get anything off Google. Australian species aren't quite as widely known, and to provide like a visual representation of them that a kid in a year or 5 years or 10 years can Google and get an idea of these things that used to live in this place. It's a really cool thing to be part of. So I had a fairly tight deadline. I had a lot of art projects going last year. So I said, I would love to be part of this, Sally, but I don't know if I can do 5 illustrations to the normal level of detail that I would ideally want to do for paleo art, but I can do like a kind of like a natural history illustration sketchbook style, just one layer, like basically a pencil drawing, but digital. So that's what we came up with. So we've got a selection of different Australian native dinosaurs here, Lialinosaura, Cumberosaurus. I think it was you, Sally, who kind of narrowed down the 5, but we've got representatives of a bunch of different major dinosaur groups. So there's that little ankylosaur and obviously Metabarosaurus, one of my favorites. And I tried to represent them all sort of with different kind of, give them a little bit of a different composition to keep it visually interesting. And so they're very distinctive and they've got a different vibe. And that's something I sort of try to capture in a lot of my artworks, is not just the anatomical accuracy of a species, which is important because it's a scientific diagram, in one aspect, but it's also we're communicating something about an animal that no one is ever going to get the chance to see alive. And so to capture something about the feeling of that animal, one thing that I sort of like to do is when I'm plotting out a drawing, I'll imagine like if I was walking through the bush, 3 million or 30 million or 300 million years ago, and I just pushed past a branch and I saw this thing in front of me, what would it feel like to be there, like standing in front of it? Would it be scary? Would it be like really peaceful and beautiful? I think the paleo art that I've seen and really connected with is art that really captures that feeling of a moment and the emotion that you might have in that moment, the way people emotionally connect with animals now. So that's sort of what I tried to go for here. Doesn't always come across in a one-dimensional line drawing or two-dimensional line drawing, but in my more detailed illustrations, which I suppose we can get into later, that's kind of the feeling that I'm going for. And I think, Sally, possibly if you flick forward, I've put a few examples in the next slides, I think. So this is an example of a few species that I did in a more sort of scientific style. So the big skull on the side there is Ramsaya magna, which is a giant wombat that my supervisor and collaborators discovered a few years ago. So part of that commission was to do that purely scientific diagram of, the specimen. And we've captured, you can see the sort of the paler color there is intact bone. The darker color is where the bone was damaged. So that's conveying the fact that this is not a complete specimen. Looking at it, you get a feeling for the fact that we're just looking at a fragment and we have to kind of imagine what the rest of it might be. But a lot of paleontology is imagining and extrapolating. So from that, we worked together to make this reconstruction of Ramsaya as it might have looked in life. And there's a modern wombat beside it there to give an idea of scale. So that illustration was trying to communicate the size difference, the fact that we've got a big wombat. It was probably more closely related to northern hairy nose wombats. So I used that to kind of design the face a bit to give that like big squishy nose, sort of not exactly like the wombats we know today, kind of halfway between them and a diprotodon. And that's an important part of paleo art, is to communicate those scientific ideas that the research has given you. The other example there is the 3 little palaeoartists down the bottom. And that was my honours species. And my project essentially found that they'd eaten a pretty varied diet of different plant foods. So I did a diagram of 3 different feeding postures they might have employed, 3 different things they might have targeted. So combining the aesthetic, kind of it's a fun, fluffy animal, but with something that tells you about its ecology or its anatomy or, so combining the science with the art there is sort of the whole goal of paleo art. I think they've probably talked enough on that point, so I can hand over to Em now.
Just enjoy these other artworks that Nelly has included because they are beautiful.
I put them in the vibes.
Just for vibes. I like it. Yeah.
Vibes. There's some science too, but it's mostly about the vibes.
But yeah, you totally do capture that like moment in time looking through the branch kind of thing. So
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. There's a fun little Easter egg
Mm.
in the if you just flick back to that previous one too.
wrong
It's
way.
a little difficult to see because it's a bit of a darker.
Oh
no,
God,
sorry.
my
Oh no, I've chopped up the whole PowerPoint now. Oh,
there we
no.
go.
There we go. Okay, so obviously I wanted to capture a scene and a moment and a feeling, but the second one was an illustration of some Miocene marsupials called Maleodectids. They're all extinct now. They were very distinctive in terms of their dentition. They had
Oh, have we lost you, Nelly? Oh, she's frozen. Oh dear. Okay, we might have to come back to Nelly afterwards, so we'll go to Em at the moment. Em, have we still got you?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Go for it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I guess a similar experience to Nelly. I think you reached out over Instagram after I posted this actual piece actually. So this was a piece I did for the book. It was a pachycephalosaur, and I guess the coloring might be familiar to some of you. It's a native Australian bird, the fairy wren, superb fairy wren, I believe. So yeah, I guess so. Paleontology and paleo art for me, I guess, is again about like that imagination and about sort of taking hypotheses and sort of doing a twist on it. So did Pachycephalosaur have bright blue coloring? Probably not, but I think it looks kind of cool. So that was kind of my my ethos for that piece. So I'm really grateful that Sally reached out and yeah, got to have been part of this project. It's really cool. So go to the next slide.
Yeah, I remember seeing this as soon as you posted it. I gasped out loud and I was like, I have to have it. So I was very grateful when you said yes. Okay,
Thank
next
you. Yeah, I
slide.
think that was like part of I would random roll birds and then whatever bird I picked sort of try and get a dinosaur to match the coloring, which was kind of an interesting experience because I guess were they scaly, were they feathery, what kind of integument did these dinosaurs have, and kind of give you different ideas to play around with colors. And there's so much variety in birds and extant animals that it's really great to take inspiration from all kinds of places. Yeah, so these are a couple of different art pieces I've done over the years. I guess probably some of my proudest stuff is I did a tarot deck with all paleontology themed cards. So that was, I think 52 cards that I did in the last year of my undergrad. It was great procrastination from studying yet. So just every night I would do a new card, and that was a lot of fun. So those are two of my favorites. So we've got the Fool, which is Tiktaalik crawling onto land because the Fool represents new beginnings. Um, and we have Death, which is represented by the Great Dying or the Permian Triassic mass extinction, which is considered like the most deadly mass extinction in history. And I thought that was an interesting choice because I guess because death actually represents change. So, while, it was the death of some major clades like the trilobites and some other invertebrate groups that I have represented down the bottom there that I can't remember the exact, my mind's blanking right now, but it was also, a new chapter of life on the planet. And then I guess so the drawing on the left was actually during a really exciting time. I got to go to Mongolia for some dinosaur field work 2 years ago. And so I kept like I guess like a journal while I was over there, and I got to do a lot of art and got inspired by all the amazing dinosaurs and fossils that Mongolia has yielded. So this is a Mononychus that I drew in the desert. And yeah, so I guess, it's always really fun to be able to go places and do paleo art and, be inspired by the world around us. Yeah, so I think that's about all I had to say. But yeah, I guess like the main thing for my paleo art is because I think realism is amazing and there's such like there's so many amazing artwork out there that focuses on like scientific illustration and just making these animals look so lifelike and so lively But to me, I guess I like to think more about the symbolism of like what do these animals remind me of, what do that those feelings as well. And yeah, just playing, having fun, I guess is how I would put it.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, Rory, you're up.
Okay. I can't remember what I put on my slides. Sorry. Okay, yes, I just put a smorgasbord of things. Okay, some of these are in the book, some of these aren't. But I guess uh, following on from what I was saying earlier, I guess I've been in the incredibly fortunate position of being asked to make art for other people. But which has led to a few of the ones that we're seeing here. So that one on the top left was for an exhibit here in Victoria called Prehistoric Bayside, and we have some dinosaurs and very dead pterosaurs that I made for some scientific publications for some friends and colleagues, Jake Vitevsky and Adele Pentland. Yeah, I guess I can riff on one of the ones that you asked for, which was Parasnorkelophus. Speaking of the cool potential of paleo art as a sort of preservational tool for how our understanding of science changes through time. Oh, I have props for this. Hang on. So, you go from something like these weird old iguanodons to the more modern sort of interpretation of it. And there's sort of the idea that we find these old hadrosaurid ornithopods that had the bony crest that obviously had some weird channeling going on there. And I don't know if this is actually based on anything, but it wasn't like I believe that the first one of the first interpretations, like maybe because they were great big swamp monsters, should be putting on a posh British accent for this. They were living in the swamps and they were using it to breathe while they fed. So I thought that was a fun thing to try and illustrate. Um, but I don't know. I wish I had some lofty goal to say that behind a lot of the art that I try to produce. It's mostly just it feels like it's just fun. Um, and a lot of these things are, especially with Australian species, creatures which I think are probably not depicted that often. And I guess there's no better example than the one I put on the next slide, which I was very happy for you to ask to use, which was this, which is the group of whales which I study as part of my PhD. This is a species we call Jangasidas dillardii. Oh, and the thing in the top left was the proof of the developing my developing skill. I've gotten slightly better with age, I think. But this has been one of my favorite things to do since I was a very very small person. Um, so yes, but on with this picture here, this was a new species which I was very lucky to name last year. And there's unfortunately just not a lot of artwork out there of this group of animals, and getting to try my hand at depicting that as faithfully and I would say also respectfully as I can, because you want to give these things that lived some sort of like moment in the sun, I guess. Doesn't really work for a whale, but you get the idea. Um, yeah, they're weird. And I think that you can write as good a science as you possibly want. You can be an excellent communicator as much as possible, but ultimately, like, the thing people want to know is how big was it? What did it look like? Could I pat it? Would it take my fingers off? This guy probably would. Um, and I think that there's so much value in just being able to show someone, oh, it's something like this. But also, at some point, I guarantee everything that I've drawn here is going to be considered very out of date or very wrong. But that is just what's cool about paleo art, because our understanding is inevitably going to evolve because more fossils are found, more research continues to happen. This will forever be a record of, I guess, what I thought a toothed whale looked like, a toothed baleen whale looked like when I was in this time period. I guess I'll pass on now. Who's next? Ali.
Cool, thank you, Rue. I do just want to make a little note here. So if you do buy the book, little plug, I think I have a zoomed in version of this image because This when you do zoom in on this, you can actually see the details on the teeth of Giangicetus. I don't know if you've ever Googled the tooth. Is it a crab-eater seal, Ruri? They've got the
That has got a weird tooth, yes.
okay, but it's got weird little notches and things. But this one as well, maybe not the exact same, but it also has these really weird teeth. And so
I have a print if you'd like. I can fetch it later.
yeah.
All right, 2 seconds. Please hold.
Yeah, but it's just insane that not only do you get this beautiful kind of landscape snapshot of not only the animals but their environment as well, but I think Rui's done this digitally, I assume.
I have done this digitally, yes,
Yeah,
because
see?
I moved here and I did not have a lot of equipment to draw with.
Yeah, so I
Can't
don't know
really
if you
see
can
it very
see what
well,
he's holding,
but
but it's got these weird little notches. And if you zoom in on this image, you can actually see those little notches on every single tooth. So
that
attention to detail is definitely there.
and that was important to illustrate with this animal as well, though, because that was, as was the case with so many of the fossils we work with, particularly here in Australia, very, very, very incomplete. We had teeth in the back of the skull, so you want to show off what little piece of fossil you do have, and in that case, it was the teeth. So I'm glad that you appreciated that.
Very much. Thank you. Okay, Ali, do you want to share your screen? Or actually, let me go to the next slide first because I have the image of what you did for the book, and then you're welcome to share your screen whenever and talk about your artwork.
Thank you, Sally. So I met Sally in Sydney as a client, so as a tattoo artist. So she got a Pachycephalosaurus at first, and then second, he got the Styracosaurus. And then when we were like working together, she was talking about the book she's writing, and I was like, oh my God, I'll be more than happy if I can like participate in that project. And I'm happy to show you my illustration if you want. And she was asking me to do ceratopsians diagram the skulls. So there's a Triceratops and also Regaliceratops and Styracosaurus over there. And then after that, she was, as she told before, she asked me to do like, how about the book cover? And I was so thrilled to do it. But it's like, actually it's a bit different because I only usually work with the skeleton design. So, but yeah, I'm happy to show you my tattoo works. Well, I usually draw the design on the skin, not the paper, so it's a bit funny. Okay, I'll show you. I'll share my screen. Let me see. Is it working right now?
Give it a second.
Yep.
Okay, let me stop sharing and then you might need to reshare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, try now.
All right. Okay, I'll show you a few of my works. Can you see it now?
Yeah, all good.
So this is one of my work. This is not dinosaur, but the snake. But as you can see, the skeleton designs are really good for show you the flow of your body as well. And also I'll show you, this is the raptor, one of my favorite work and one of my favorite dinosaur, obviously. And I'll show you the other one, Spinosaurus. And the Mosasaurus, two Mosasaurus. And here's my T-Rex. And Archaeopteryx. And Triceratops. Yep, these were my few favorite works that I've done. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Ali. I just want to point out you might recognize the mosasaurs from that person's body. So when I received the mock-up of the book cover, they had some kind of skeletal elements, but it had literally just been like an image of, I don't know, some photo stock website that they then photoshopped to kind of mirror. So it was a similar composition to what this book cover is. But it just, when I looked at the skeletons, I was like, I cannot identify what this animal is. It's just not quite right. The anatomy's a bit off. Is it a whale? Is it a mosasaur? I don't know. And because I do so much science communications, talking to schools, I knew that if I ever had a kid or a TV presenter or someone asked, "Oh, tell us about these animals on the book," and if I couldn't answer that, I would be mortified. And so I just felt a bit icky about it. And it was by this stage I'd already agreed to the cover as well. We'd kind of gone through a few edits with the graphic designer, and at that stage I was like, it's fine, it'll do. And then a few days later, I was like, no, I hate it, I can't do it. So I got in touch with my editors and was like, hey, would we be allowed to change the cover? I know it's late, and they were like, oh, probably not, but if you could do it in like 4 or 5 days, I guess we'll allow it. And I had Ali in mind for this whole process. This is before I'd even asked her if she had availability to do it. So I messaged her immediately during that Zoom with my editors, being like, "Hey, would you be willing?" Thank goodness she was. And then I pretty much screenshotted about 15 different images of her different tattoos and kind of went, okay, I want this one here and this one here and this one here. And she absolutely delivered. I'm so, so proud of this title to kind of be able to show people this and be able to identify every single thing on the cover. So huge thank you to you, Ali, and to my other artists for contributing some wonderful pieces into this book. I'm really excited to finally share it with people because I've been writing this, I think I finished maybe a year ago now, and so we've had to wait quite a while to be able to share it with people. Um, but yes, I'm now going to stop talking for a little while because I want to hear more from our artists. So I have a few questions that I want to ask you all, but if you in the audience also have a question, feel free to pop it into the chat and we will do our best to answer it. Okay, so my first question, I think most of you have kind of answered how you initially got into paleo art, but if you want to touch on that again, feel free. But I want to know when you get a commission, whether it's from me or you just get an idea in your head of something you want to draw, where do you start? How do you go about creating something new? Do you start with the skull? Do you start with research? Do you just put pen to paper and see what happens? Let me know. Em, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm really interested in everyone else's answer as well, so hopefully, I guess it depends how familiar I am with the fossil. If it's something I work a lot on, like I don't know, sharks, or it's a Mudbarasaurus, because that's one of my favorites as well. I think most Queenslanders, it's got a soft spot for us. If it's something I know fairly well, I might start more with like something more dynamic or something like a more of a vibe based, I guess. But yeah, if it's something especially if it's commission, you kind of want to do my research. So I'll look up skeletals and more recent papers and sort of, try and maybe do a lot of practice like with the proportions and getting the anatomy down first. That's at least would be my approach. I don't know about the other guys.
Okay, Rory, do you want to jump in?
Sure. I have had this experience very recently, actually. I've been asked to work on a group of animals I've never drawn before, or well, never drawn before for to a high standard, I guess. Which has been it's been very exciting having to do that research all over again. It's a very similar process of like it depends on how familiar you are. I'm very comfortable drawing whales. I'm not very comfortable drawing, I don't know, groups I've never worked on. But usually there's also like it depends on how common the group is as well. It is a issue with the group of animals I work on for my PhD that there is not a sort of consensus on a lot of artistic decisions, which does give you a bit of freedom as well, in terms of you can make a lot of decisions as to what you're going to do with regards to. I don't know, the only thing I can think of is like the lip tissue is usually a very contentious one, especially with like sea creatures. Like lots of people like to show have their teeth showing. But I've been asked to work on plesiosaurs recently, and it's been fascinating having to do that research on where things like the flippers are held, where things like the how the tail shape is. Like there's some people think it's horizontal, some people think it's upwards. There's a lot of good resources that some other paleo artists have written. In particular, I would think of people like Mark Whitten had, in this case, had written like 2 whole blog posts on his understanding of working on reconstructing plesiosaurs, which was quite fascinating. Um, and yeah, it's the same thing. You look at skeletals, you break the animal down into basic shapes, and you start doodling until it starts to not look quite as terrible as it did when you started drawing, which is usually when I know we're getting somewhere. Say that's about it.
Great, thank you. Ali, do you want to chip in?
So I'm basically only usually only work with the skeleton, so it is based on research. So whenever my client asks me to do something I've never done before, I just jump into the research and found fossil references, skeletal structures, and scientific reconstruction first, and then I adapt that into a design that works visually. So for tattoo especially, I think about how it flows on the body and the muscles. So it's always a balance between accuracy and composition. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. And Nell, how do you go about it?
Yeah, I think those are all really good answers. And it's pretty similar for me, I would say. I think starting with the way I like to think about it is like start with what do we know? Like, because the reality is with a lot of these species, we're filling in gaps kind of as artists. There's a lot of interpretation and extrapolation. So, like Rory said, that does give you a lot of freedom to kind of play with some aspects of the animal, but it does still need to look like an animal. It needs to make sense anatomically. And if there's research about it, there's a certain amount that is known. So a researcher has looked at fossils and they're writing a paper about something to do with its ecology or what it's related to, for instance. With a lot of the stuff that I'm commissioned to do, it tends to be marsupials. So even though, like for the Maleodectid illustration, for instance, like there are no living Maleodectids, I can't Google like Maleodectid and get an idea of their ear shape or their nose color. But we know they're closely related to living quolls. So that kind of provides you with a basic starting point. You're like, okay, they were smallish, they were furry, they probably had a face shaped somewhat like this. And then the fossils that we have are of like teeth and mouth parts. So that gives you some idea about where muscles might have attached to. They had probably very chunky cheeks because they had these really robust teeth. So you can use those kinds of concrete anatomical observations to kind of give yourself a starting point. And then once you know, okay, well, it's basically like a fat quoll, then you just Google quoll and you're like, all right, well, now I have an idea of how the light would fall across that quoll's body. So even if you're not directly copying anatomy, I find it really helpful just in terms of creating something that looks realistic and feels real, to use references of living animals, and to use that for like fur texture and lighting. And then you can also use those animals to correlate things like, okay, well, they're probably nocturnal, so let's draw it in a nighttime scene, that kind of thing. So you've got a lot of analogies you can use. And then anything that's not known, that's really not known, you send an email to the researcher, you say, do you have any idea what color this thing might have been? And the researcher says, brown-ish, I don't know, go for it, have fun. And so then you've got free reign to just add soft mouth parts, like Rory said, like just add weird lips, weird ears, weird fur. You know, there's no rules at that point. So long as it's reasonable enough, no one's ever going to take a photo of that thing and prove you wrong. So have fun with it.
That's fair. I like it. I remember you mentioned to me or someone a while ago that you also use like oil paintings. That was kind of how you trained yourself up as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was, yeah, very unusual advice that I got from a really famous Australian paleo artist called Peter Trussler. So paleo artists tend to either come into paleo art through the art route or through the science route. And I came through the art route, sorry, through the science route. He came through the art route. So he was an oil painter himself who just happened to be interested in fossils. And when I met up with him at the last paleontology conference in Nam a few years back, I was like, Peter, you make these amazing scenes. How do you do this? Like, where do you start? How did you figure out how to do this? Because I've got all the science, but I don't know how to like put these things together and make it feel the way you make it feel. And he just said, learn oil painting. And I was like, Peter, what? Like that is not what I expected you to say. But I so the thing with, I guess, illustrations, you generally these days make them digital because that's how they're easy to share, they're easy to edit and modify. But he learned in an era when you would paint first, and oil paint in particular as a medium really teaches you to kind of look at lighting and to build an image out of like light and shapes and color rather than starting with a line drawing and coloring it in bit by bit. So it's kind of a weird thing to describe, I guess. It's sort of more, it almost feels like you're like sculpting rather than drawing. And I found for me that was a really big game changer artistically, because I started out drawing by sketching with a pencil or drawing diagrams, and I'd sort of slowly add layers of color on, but it always felt kind of clunky and not right. To kind of start with, well, like I said, to start with a vibe, to start with like, okay, I'm standing in a forest and light's coming from this direction, and it's illuminating this thing from behind, and so there's a real warm glow here, and there's cooler shadows in the corner. It's not an intuitive approach for a scientist to take, but because it's like coming at it through a more artistic direction and specifically through a medium that forces you to do that, it's not digital. You can't just like erase it whenever you want. You have to kind of think and plan ahead. It makes you think about art in a, put it together in a new way, and I found that really helpful for me. Not necessarily for other people, I don't think. It's not advice that I give for every art style, but for what I was trying to do, it was like filled in a missing gap for me, I think, which was really fun.
Cool, thank you. Okay, we have some audience questions which I'll throw to now. So one is from Sherry, and she has asked, when we need an artwork for a paper, what is a suggested approach for you as artists? What are the key pieces of info you would like us to provide? Rory, do you want to start?
Sure. What are the key pieces of info I would like you to provide? Meaning the people that are asking for the artwork, the key pieces of info they would be asking for?
I guess either. I mean, I assume. Oh, I'm just trying to think when I messaged you guys. It was easier for you, Rory, because you already had artworks
I
kind
did,
of in
yes.
your
I did.
gallery, and I was like, I want this one and this one and this one. Um, but yeah, Sherry, do you maybe want to clarify? Do you mean more like logistics of like I want it this big, I want it with, a background, this is my budget kind of thing, or is it more what fossils or what illustrations do you as a researcher need to provide?
I can
Like
speak on something that.
logistics, there you go.
Okay. Um, well, oh, I don't know if I am a good person to answer this. I guess the logistics of it. I think the most important thing that we need to get is like what is the material we're dealing with? What is it we also want to be depicting as another part as well? Having worked with other people who are worked with other paleo artists who we want to depict a certain scene. There's usually, again, fossils. You're usually working with fragmentary material. You're usually working with very incomplete material. You want to depict certain behaviors, perhaps, or you want to depict certain anatomy, or you want to depict a certain environment. So when we're given more information in that regard of the sort of environments that these animals are living in, or the sort of ecological niches they'd be in, informs, most animal, but very few exceptions with fossil animals, you aren't going to know the color, so you do get to go from anything as exciting as a brown ball of fluff to putting stripes and lasers coming out of their eyes and everything, if you can scientifically justify, which I've not been able to so far. um I guess one of the things that I would want to add to that is, this is kind of an issue we have with people using generative AI in the place of paleo artists. I saw there was a paper that came out, I think, last year, and the press release was about an arboreal crocodile, and they used a freshwater crocodile for the image, which is just like, come on, because it perfectly exemplifies that, like, a paleo artist is making a million decisions, not even consciously, every time they're making a artwork, and they're making that on the basis of the quality and the quantity of the information that they are given. from researchers and from experts in those groups and experts in if they have any living exemplars as well on how these animals looked. So yeah, and you know, we aren't funding any. We don't give any money to any surveillance states or anything like that.
Yeah, thank you, Rui. I think as well, Sherry, for stuff like you do. So for reference, you're doing invertebrate brachipod bivalve stuff from Lightning Ridge. So if you wanted an artwork, it might be giving information like, do you want a whole scene? Do you just want your little specimen or your little plant? Do you want, kind of like Rui's Giangicetus? Yeah. So think about, there's a bunch of dinosaurs and stuff up at Lightning Ridge in those same layers. Do you want them depicted in the background? Do you want it kind of the river below and um, the land scene above kind of thing. Yeah, Nelly, do you want to comment on this as well?
Yeah, for sure. That was a really good answer, Rory, too. I think, yeah, that's kind of covers the main things, but I'd also say specifically, like, um, convey specifically what information you want this image to get across. And that can be logistic things, like Sally said, that the scope of like, do you want a scene or do you want like a specimen illustration? Have you got a bone that you want a line drawing of? Because those two things are that's two completely different workloads. Like a line drawing is I can produce much faster than I could produce a fully rendered, 3D looking scene. So that gives me an idea of how much work it's going to be. Timeline as well. I think I know myself and probably a lot of artists. So time management is not our strong suit. So like to have a deadline of like hard deadline is this date. If you could get me a draft by this date, that helps me map out like whether that is going to be achievable. Budget always is like helpful to have, but I know realistically a lot of scientists don't have a huge budget to work with. And I can only speak for myself on this front. I think every artist has a different perspective on this and feeling about it. For me, I really find it valuable to contribute to paleontology in Australia. It's an important part of my professional development, and it's also something that I'm really happy to contribute. So budget for me is less important. If there's a way for me to be on a project, like I've accepted a co-authorship in place of getting paid, which is something that I can agree on. I can agree to myself. I can't speak for any other artist there, and I can't tell you that another artist would agree to that. But it is something that I think you should clarify up front if there's a budget. Some people have like families to feed, so they just can't say yes to a commission they're not getting paid for. Others, like me, are students and are benefiting from being part of that research. So it's different for everyone there. And then, yeah, I guess just what your goal with that scene is, what information you do know. Like you've got 3 specimens of this thing, and you want to show it as it was in life, moving through its ecosystem. Any like hard like information that you do have, like I said, that provides a useful skeleton to saying this thing was a predator. Can we show it hunting something? Or like I often find scientists who contact me do have a bit of a mental image about like they've kind of got an illustration in mind. They'll like they'll say, oh, I want to like that tree kangaroo image I had up before. Nat contacted me and she said, I'm just picturing like looking up at this thing, reaching through the canopy. And I was like, bang, got it. I know what I'm doing here. You don't need to be specific about that. That's something the artist can help you with. But if there is anything that you do want to include, let us know at the outset so we can put that in the initial sketch rather than ending up with a fully rendered illustration and you saying, actually, can it be at nighttime? Because that's like not always a feasible thing to add in at the end. So yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything I need.
Cool, thank you. I think as well, maybe a little hint when I was commissioning you, Nelly, I just kind of scrolled through your entire Instagram and I was like, these are the styles I like, these are the color. Well, I didn't even do colors. I was just like, I'm poor. I want the sketch thing. We had a pretty limited budget for our artworks for the book. But yeah, you were amazing. And I was like, ideally, I'd want these 4 or 5 dinosaurs in this style. How much would it cost? And it was well within our budget. So that was, yeah, really lovely. And yes, I love sharing those artworks. I think especially like the fluffy Lianalosaura, when kids see that, they're like, oh my God, this is an Australian one. How cool is that?
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a fun one to do.
Yeah. Okay, cool. This is another great question from Bethany. This one is asking what or how does everyone balance work with art time without risking burnout? Might be a tricky one. Some of you guys are studying full time as well as doing this artwork, so I'd love to hear from you. Em, do you want to start?
Yeah. I'm gonna say you're probably gonna get burnt out. Like, I think it's a natural part of life, whether it's, I don't think it's always something you can avoid. And so I think, and that's part of like the process as an artist. You're gonna have, peaks and then plateaus where you feel like you're not getting better, and then it'll be good again, and then that's how I guess any skill develops. So I guess you have to be kind to yourself. As well, like thinking about your health. Like, are you warming up? Are you doing stretches? Are you taking care of your eyes? Especially if you're doing a lot of digital stuff. Staying hydrated, which is something I'm very bad at. But yeah, taking care of yourself. Um, and yeah, I guess you're gonna have times when you're very busy, when you've got other priorities, so you can't always do the art you want, or you're just not interested. Like I haven't done a lot of paleo art in a little while because I've had other interests, or I've been busy with other things. So which can be frustrating. But I've always found that when I come back to it, I don't feel like I've lost any skill level, or I might be a bit rusty at first, but then it's really easy to get right back into it. So be kind to yourself, just take things as they are and go with the flow kind of would be my answer there.
Great, thank you. Ali, do you want to jump in here? Because I think you're in quite a unique position that you kind of get to draw fossils kind of full time.
Yeah, it is basically my art time is basically same with the work time. So it is really weird to say that I have you know, it's like work with art time without risking burnout. And it's really hard to say. But for me, maybe I think talking with other people who really interested in dinosaur really helps for me. So basically, whenever I finish my design and then just bring it to my clients and then just work with on their body, we talk about a lot about dinosaur and why we love this and how did you jump into that um dinosaur kind of work. And for example, Sally, I asked her a lot of silly questions like what dinosaur do you want to bring to back to life and sort of those things. So I think for me, if I have to work out with that kind of risk, I think I need to talk with other people who share the same interest with me, and that really helps. Yeah, I hope that's really helpful.
No,
Yeah.
that's a good answer. Finding kind of your community, I think, in paleontology, in paleo art has been, yeah, I mean, I'm not an artist, I just kind of do the rest of it. But yeah, I can imagine that would be really, really helpful. Okay, we've got another question. Oh, we've got a few more. Okay. So Jack has asked, what forms of networking have been the most successful for everyone? What would you recommend from an artist kind of entering the spiel, or sort of from like an artist entry point and then from a science entry point? So maybe Nell, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, so I guess I have a few bits of advice here, and I don't know how relevant they are now because when I started this, it was I can't, I don't even want to say how long ago it was, but it was back when Twitter was a thing and there were a lot of paleontologists on Twitter. And it was kind of this like central networking place where you could be a little bit relaxed and silly and share art, but you could also do it on this semi professional channel. I don't necessarily know what the social media equivalent now would be. I don't know that there's really been. Yeah. I think me and Em followed each other on Twitter back in the day, and it was a really fun place where you could share. People would share their research and their papers, and then you'd see a paper come up and you'd think, oh my gosh, what a cool finding, and you would do a little doodle of that, of the finding. And then you would post that, and both of those things were kind of appropriate for that platform. It was the research, but also people responding to the research and making jokes about it and having fun with it. And while that platform doesn't exist, I think that kind of interaction with research is still really valuable, in the sense that, like, there are scientists out there doing their work. They're scientists. They're not always directly connected to artists. They are always so excited when an artist connects with them first and says, "Your work was so interesting to me. I've made a little artwork about it." Actually, Blue Sky is a great suggestion, Jack. Yeah, that's just in the chat. Blue Sky has kind of, I think, become the successor to Twitter. I've tried to cut down my screen time, so I have not dipped my toe into Blue Sky yet, but it'll probably happen eventually. But yeah, basically any way that you can connect with scientists and have your work seen, but not in like a buy my work, not in like a transactional, like you're selling them a product or you're asking them for anything. Offer them something. And that sounds a little bit, I know artists, as artists, you have limited time, but I think your time is valuable. But the thing I was going to say about burnout actually was, like, do things that are interesting to you and have fun with them. So if a piece of research comes out that you think, oh my gosh, I could make a really funny little illustration about this, I'm really connecting with this, follow that joy and that moment of inspiration, make something, and then connect with the person who inspired it, because that connection is what will lead to a networking thing later on. Like, people then know you exist. They associate you with this really fun, exciting moment of feeling like they inspired you, and they're the people who in the future will reach out to you with a commission, or will mention your name when someone else they know wants a commission. So I think be generous with your time, have fun with what you're doing, get excited about science, be in that space in a way that's not necessarily asking for anything, but is making you visible and contributing something unique that you have. And that is, for me, that's been, I mean, I got into this completely by accident, just by doing that, just by hanging out where paleontologists were hanging out and being like, oh, you guys are so cool. This is so fun. And they're like, it is cool. It is fun. Do you want me to pay you to make art about it? And it's like, yes, please. Perfect. So yeah, I don't know. I know that it's not super concrete advice, but I hope that kind of gives you some ideas.
I would also just say, just don't be afraid to reach out to people, even if you don't know them. I think for Nelly, definitely you. I don't think you knew who I was at all, and I just slid into your DMs and was like, I love your artwork.
I would have been scared to reach out to you. I was like, Sally's the person who made that amazing found a fossil website. But I mean, that's the thing. I think scientists are just people, right? And you might think someone else is super impressive, but they're thinking, oh my gosh, how do I message that person? So yeah, don't be too afraid to talk.
We all have imposter syndrome, I think, is the thing. So if you reach out to someone, and it, again, doesn't have to be a hey, buy this, or yeah, whatever you need, just kind of say, hey, I thought the artwork that you just posted was amazing. I do some too, something like that. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna jump to the next question because we're almost at the end. Ruri, do you want to comment on this question? It is from Rose, and she's asking, how can you work to get your art recognized?
Oh, I think that follows on from the last question, which all very good points as well. I think it is the same case. It is making your art available, putting it out there, which is always stressful and always a little nerve-wracking because, as you say, every single person experiences some degree of imposter syndrome, I think. But we all put our pants on one leg at a time. Um, I think I mean, I can speak to the like there is artists who myself and other researchers have commissioned because they've been active on these sort of platforms. And our mutual friend Jay Katevsky has commissioned oh, what's his name? Oh no. Oh, I had his name in my head and I've forgotten it now. It'll come back to me. And excellent theropod artist who I'm going to kick myself for forgetting the name of. But Zev Landis is also an excellent artist as well. That was actually what my next point was going to be. The people you meet in the real human worlds who you do share that enthusiasm with and that love of the science and love of communicating the science, that can also just get you to get those opportunities as well. It is because I was able to make friends with people like Zev Landis and people like Ben Francischelli as well, who was the curator of Prehistoric Bayside, that I got opportunities like I did. Very recently, there's an undergraduate student at Monash who I hope doesn't mind me shouting her out, called Marlonique Wallermans, and she did an artwork for Prehistoric Bayside, and it is incredible. It is one of the most incredible sort of works I've ever seen for the of that sort of time period. But that came from just being very present and very enthusiastic and very keen to share that work. And yeah, that was the reason I got asked to do any paintings in the first place, was because I was drawing already, and for some reason people came up to me and said, hey, would you like to do this potentially and also be compensated for it? That'd be great. So yeah, uh, sharing, being in community with people, preferably in the real world, but also online. I think that's
You
definitely
have a
important.
you have a great website as well. What website do you post your art to?
I don't have a website. I put it on ArtStation, but
ArtStation.
only
That's
because
the
I need
one.
to have it.
You have an excellent profile.
Oh, thank you.
And
They do also support AI, so I need to find somewhere else to put it. But that's the placeholder for now.
yeah, I think as well something that I found helpful, not as an artist, but just as a paleo, getting my name out there was I have a personal website.
Jonathan
Um,
Metzger. Sorry, that was his name.
that's the Therapod artist.
He also does other animals as well. He's an excellent artist, but I could not remember his name. Sorry, please go on. I'm
Well
very sorry for
done.
interrupting.
No, that's all good. But yeah, I was just going to say that if you can create kind of your own website, be easy to find, essentially. I've had several opportunities come up because someone has Googled New South Wales female archaeologist or paleontologist, and because I have my own website and those are keywords that appear many, many times, I'm sort of one of the first results that come up. So if you can be easy to find, that's also a good way to kind of get your name out there. Ali had to unfortunately leave a little bit early, so I'm gonna give this is will be the last question for tonight, but it's a great one. Um, so Zach has asked, do you have any experience with being commissioned or being approached by or kind of given absolutely horrendous suggestions from people or from scientists? Or have you had to kind of draw a creature that was really unconventional? Or maybe even that you hated by the end of it because it was so annoying to draw. Em, do you want to start?
Oh, I would say horrendous. That's thankfully not I haven't. But I did have a fun time in Mongolia with my now PhD supervisors Nick Campioni and Phil Bell. We were sort of playing around with different soft tissue structures on Protoceratops, which is like a small Triceratops looking dinosaur. We ended up giving it like a bulldog face with like these long jowls. I wish I had I've got the drawing somewhere. But yeah, I guess sometimes you can get a little bit silly, which is definitely a big part of the paleo community. We're all nerds, and so yeah, it can be. Sometimes it is. I like to sometimes throw scientific accuracy out the window for a bit of a laugh. Which I mean, I guess you've got to balance that when you're doing science com, like what's going to be fun and what's going to be accurate.
Great, thank you. Okay, now, do you have something?
I think similar to Em, I've never, like, no one's ever asked me to do anything weird or horrendous, but I've just chosen to do that for shits and giggles. Okay, just like, I think I did get one Twitter comment once. I mean, you never take them seriously, but there was a brief debate going around on Twitter on the day that, like, would Australian megafauna have had fur? Like, would they have been big enough that they'd be like elephants and rhinos and just been bald? And so, because I got some weird Twitter comment on a diprotodon I posted that was like, it's wrong, you have to take away the fur. I was like, okay, then I will. And I did like a diprotodon inspired by a naked mole rat that was just like a monstrous, wrinkly, like blob. So I mean, no one made me do that, but they did suggest I should, and I did, and then everyone regretted seeing it. So, But like I've said, I mean, it was kind of a joke and it was fun, and it did inspire a bit of a discussion in the comments, being like, oh, could this actually be more accurate? And I think that's kind of what's fun about paleo art. It doesn't hurt these animals if someone draws them looking like an ugly giant mole rat. Like, there's no conservation implications of people not liking diprotodons, so why not? Go for it, have fun, have a chat about it.
God, that would be terrifying to encounter in the landscape.
Yeah, I don't want to think about even being
No.
distracted. I can't find it and I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, please don't. Okay, Ruri, do you have any weird experiences?
I'm stunned by how incredibly cursed that image is in my head. I don't think I've seen it either. Um, any experiences with weird animals? Not really. I've been incredibly lucky in that I've only ever really gone to draw animals that I like. I can give an answer which just speaks more to my artistic ineptitude, though, if we'd like. And that is specifically sauropods, which are some of the most magnificent animals that have ever existed. However, they are too long. They are just too long, and nothing exists that you can use as a reference because it is this incredibly long tail and this incredibly long neck. And perspective is very, very hard. So I've always found drawing sauropods in anything other than sort of a side-on view incredibly difficult because it takes a mastery of art which I do not have, and I hope to someday. But it is some creatures are definitely much harder to draw than others. But as with everything, practice makes perfect. Um, so yeah, no, I wish I had as good an answer as that, but I don't. I'm sorry.
That's all good. Thank
Yeah.
you. Now, unfortunately, we have run out of time for more of your questions, but thank you everyone so much for joining us. If you do want to keep following our artists, take a screenshot of this slide. We've got their Instagram handles on here. Nellie's got a website, Rory's on ArtStation. I'm pretty sure you can still buy your tarot card dinosaurs. Is that right? Are there still any left? I feel I've seen them somewhere on the internet.
There's like a shady online card store that would like print them, but I have done a run in the past, like locally printed, and which is a lot cheaper, obviously, for Australia, which I am hoping to do another run at some point in the future. So please DM me if you're interested, and I'll eventually send out info about that at some point.
Amazing, thank you. And Ali is known as Jurassic Ali on Instagram as well. Yeah, so you should go and get a tattoo from her. I have many. I will be getting more. Sorry, Mum. I think you are in the audience and probably didn't want to hear that. But here we are. Anyway, final little reminder that the Found a Fossil book will be coming out in just 1 week. So if you want to see more of these artworks in a physical sense in your hands, you can jump onto the CSIRO publishing website. It's also available on the Dimmicks website, Booktopia, wherever you buy your books. It's there somewhere. Yeah, and hopefully I will, take a screenshot with this book. Let me know what you think, and yeah, get in contact with our artists for the future. This session will be posted on YouTube in a few days when I finish editing it. So if you do have any questions, you can comment on the video, or just reach out to your favorite paleo artists. But thank you everyone so much for coming, and we will see you next time. Bye everyone.